absolutely.
All right, we're burning through these. Let's go again.
Yeah, I'm answering them. Here we go. Natural one. Natural one.
All right, 17. Oh, I got a shot again.
Oh,
Look
man.
at that. I beat you fair and square that time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. This is an interesting one. Do you think that Wizards of the Coast is a good shepherd of the D&D brand?
On the record or off the record? No, just kidding. I will say this. I don't think Hasbro is.
Okay.
To a certain extent, I don't think Wizards of the Coast is. But there are some folks that work for Wizards of the Coast that I do believe are a very good shepherd for the brand. I believe I have actually been fortunate enough to meet a few of those creators. So I try to go to a convention once or twice a year. I've been to Gamehole Con in Madison, Wisconsin twice, and I was able to meet Chris Perkins. And one of my best experiences that I ever had in my life. I had my puzzle book with me, and I had brought a copy just for him because I was like, I want to meet Chris Perkins. And I went out and I'm just like, I am stuttering all over my words. I am Wally. I got a YouTube channel, whatever else. I brought my book for you, just as awkward as heck. And he bypassed my handshake and just brought it in for a hug. I was just like, dude, I was like, that it was so cool. And the other person that I gotta mention as well is Justice Armand. He has been doing a lot of the writing in some of the books, and I think lead even on one of the most recent books. That guy can run some games. I've been fortunate enough to be in 2 of his games, and it's really cool because at least at Gamehole Con, Wizards has been sending a few of them up to there, or they're going on their own accord. I guess I don't know for sure, but they're actually going in there, and you can sign up for their either specialty games or premiere games or something like that. If you're lucky enough to get in there, you can play with Chris Perkins, you can play with Justice, and Justice Armand, he ran an amazing game. Super cool guy. I mean, it was just very inspirational. So being able to meet some of the people that work for Wizards of the Coast, I have no doubt that they love this. This is their heart and soul is into this. And while people may not agree with a lot of the stuff that they come up with or the rules that they present or things like that, they're not out for anything but just because they love the game. So
yeah,
Hasbro, big no. Wizards of the Coast, yeah. But the people that work for Wizards of the Coast, they're for real. They're good people.
That is a good answer.
Thank you.
Diplomatic, insightful, well said. I would really love to go to D&D in a castle sometime and meet Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford there. But it's like $3,000. So
a little expensive on that point. You're gonna have to skip a few morning coffees to be able to go to that.
No more avocado toast if you want to do D&D in a castle.
No.
All right, here we go again. This time is a 12.
I don't even know why I'm rolling. I should just take all the hard ones. Here we go.
Okay.
Oh, I got you this time though with my +8.
You got me. All right, here we go. What do you like to play when you're not doing TTRPGs? What board games or video games are you into?
Oh man, I'm into everything. Disc golf is my big thing though. I want to go out and play, and I call it my church. Being able to be out in the woods and just breathe in the fresh air. And I tell you, there's nothing better about relieving stress from the day than just taking a frisbee, a disc, letting it rip and just watching it fly until it hits that first tree. Then it's a little frustrating, but yeah, I love disc golf and D&D. Those are my 1A and 1B. I mean, I used to also be a big Magic the Gathering player, but that's dropped on my list a little bit just because it's so competitive. But yeah, disc golf 1A 1B. I love it so much. It's if you haven't played disc golf, get out and play. Find a local course. It's very inexpensive. Kind of, unless you really get into it, the disc can get a little bit expensive, but it's amazing.
I've played a few times. I live around Denver, so there's
Beaver Ranch.
There's a lot of disc golf around here. I've done it a few times. I was terrible at it.
Oh, you only get better, and it's just I've actually been where you are before. My stepson lives out there, and we go every time, and we went out there, and the elevation is no joke.
Mm.
It has a weird effect on the discs. Like here where I'm at in the Midwest, my discs, some of them that I throw can have like a natural turn to the right, but in the higher elevation, those things are pretty stubborn about their flights for sure.
Interesting.
Hmm.
Are you do you play any board games?
I do, and it's funny that the people we play board games with, my wife and I, are we play with another couple who are also disc golfers, and so we'll like go on disc golf tournament trips, and then at night we'll play board games. And it took me a long time to ever be able to play it, but now that I have played it, I love it. I love Catan. That game is amazing. And funny enough, there is another game that's called Birdie. It's a disc golf game, and it's like D&D and Magic the Gathering and disc golf all combined, because you've got cards where you can do like counter spells. It has D20s that you can roll, D10s that you can roll. So it's a fun game as well. So I'm just now exploring the board game side, I would say, within the last 3 or 4 years. But yeah, I mean, Catan is amazing.
Nice. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that works for me.
Yeah. How about?
How
I
about
was gonna
me?
say, how about you? Yeah. I mean, same or?
Well, yeah. I have a young child, so we
Okay.
play a lot of stuff together. Most recently, I picked up a game called Tinder Blocks, which
Okay.
is sort of like a reverse Jenga, where you build. You're building a fire by
Oh
using
wow.
tweezers to pick up these little plastic pieces and try to build it as high as you can based on what these cards say. My favorite board game is really a dice game. It's called Las Vegas Royale,
Okay.
where you have a pool of dice that you roll and you spend dice to put them on various casinos to try to win the casinos.
Oh wow.
I would play that over and over and over again. I love Las Vegas Royale.
I'm gonna have to check that out. Cool.
Yeah, it's great. All right, let's go again. This time, gonna be 14. I'm rolling pretty hot today.
Nat
And
20,
your nat
baby.
20 definitely beats my 14.
Yeah.
You got a 1 and a 20 in the same interview.
Highs and lows. That's it. That's what I'm about.
All right. Do you have a favorite tabletop monster?
I do. I've got a couple of them, and I'm going to cheat because I'm going to pick the ones. I also wrote another book called The Quintessential Guide to Monster Encounters, which is over my left shoulder, and that is a book that I've written with two other D&D YouTubers, Mr. Trask and Dungeon Dad, and also with JVC Perry, who is he has wrote a ton on DM's Guild and Drive Through RPG. And the four of us got together and we created this book that has 26 separate monster encounters, and it has our own unique monsters that we created. And if I were to pick one out of the three, I would probably I love the chicken harpies, which are cool because they don't really attack, they just cluck. And when they're doing that, it causes damage, and all they do is dodge. They don't want anything to do with you. They just want out of the way. So if you go at them, you're probably going to get some psychic damage. Another monster that I have in there is the crematrium, which is an undead from ash. So like in an urn, it's if an urn is spilled, it forms into this crematrium. But those are going to be my runners up because my very favorite is called the sensory demon. And when it hits you, different ways that it hits you or looks at you, it deprives you of senses. So you could go deaf, you could go blind, and as you're battling this, you lose that. You could get blisters on your hand, which gives you disadvantage. I think with smell or taste, you could get a poison condition. So just goes totally off of your senses. And the reason why I love that so much is because my brother and my table, they hate it so much. It's just like they've been fighting this thing time and time again. I throw a few of them in there, like, gosh dang it, so yeah, so I'm gonna say the monsters that I created in the Quintessential Guide are my favorite. I cheated.
That's fine. You are welcome to cheat. I really like that idea of consequences other than just losing hit points, because that can get pretty boring. So the idea of getting blisters on your hands
Yeah.
causing disadvantage with melee or ranged weapons, or getting blinded. That's very interesting. I like that a lot. I do like consequences other than just hit points.
Well, thank you. And that could be your favorite monster too. I'll introduce you to it.
We'll see. We'll see.
All right.
It'd be hard to unseat the Mind Flayer. Because,
classic.
I think those are my favorite. Maybe the Owlbear, but Owlbears are just cute.
Now, do your mind flayers always have an intellect devourer with them, or?
Well, they should. Sure. Yeah, I do love me some Mind Flayers.
Nice.
And I don't know, did you see the Elder Brain Dragon in Fizban's Treasury of Dragons that came out a couple years ago?
I have probably skipped over that, but you can tell me more.
Oh, it is terrifying. It is basically exactly what it sounds like. It's an Elder Brain crafted right on top of a dragon. Mm-hmm. So it flies around, and its breath weapon is a 120-foot line of tadpoles.
Oh my gosh. No way.
Even if you pass the save, you get infected with tadpoles. It is horrifying. Absolutely horrifying.
I'm going to have to use that. To share a Mind Flayer story with you.
Please.
We just had this experience about a month or so ago. One of my friends is running Dragon Heist. And in the very first chapter, I think you're level 1 or 2, and you go into the sewers. And the way that it's supposed to happen is you take the long way around this dungeon, and then you come into the main area where you're supposed to save either Renair or Floon or Renair's friend. Never remember. I can't remember. Never remember. Whatever. And then there's a Mind Flayer in there that's just supposed to make an appearance. Stand up, floats to the door, goes through a teleportation circle, and disappears. Well, one of the guys did a little bit of meta stuff, and it's like, oh, by the way, here's a secret door down here. And so we went in the back way, and I've ran Dragon Heist before. I'm like, oh no, this is not good. I was like, trying not to meta, just like, this is not good. This is not the way we wanted to go. So we came at the Mind Flayer from the other side, and unfortunately, that character met his demise. So you don't see a 5e character die very often, but the Mind Flayer there got him.
Mind Flayer will do it.
Yeah, especially at level 1 or 2.
That's intense. All right, let's go again. And this time you need to beat only a 3, which you did handily.
I can do that.
All right. Asked you about the tabletop monsters. What makes a good tabletop game master?
I think I have 2 answers to this. So first one's pacing. And I mean, not, and included in pacing is knowing when to let your players talk. I've got a bad problem with that. Is if I hear just a second of silence, I like to jump in and start saying stuff. But sometimes you've got to learn how to pace a good game and still be quiet at the same time, if that makes sense, to allow for conversation to develop naturally. But the other thing that I think makes a good DM is just including everybody. It's just, I mean, I don't know if it's a natural instinct for me, but I can feel it when I haven't heard from somebody for a while, and you've got one person that's done quite a bit. So I do like to pause, be like, okay, so that's what you're doing. And then I like to look at them and be like, okay, well, what are you doing while you're doing that? Or if there's like a secret message written there, I always write down the languages of each character when I'm prepping a game. And so I'll put something in a language that maybe one of the quieter players will speaks, or their character speaks. Be like, well, you can't read it, and then we'll go to the person that hasn't said a lot or hasn't participated enough, and they can be the go-to. They're the ones that's going to figure things out.
I can totally relate to that problem of not liking the silences. Yeah, that's something that I've had to work on too. I've deliberately told myself to work on that as well, because I want to jump in when there's quiet. But yeah, sometimes just letting the silence spread for a few seconds does make people pop in, make people think a little more. Yeah, I've found that also.
Do you have any tips or tricks for that? I mean, is there anything that you do to just...
I just tell myself to be quiet.
Yeah, that's
I don't know. There's no trick to it, really. Yeah. I just started doing it, and then I saw results.
Yeah.
That there were people who would have spoken up if I hadn't jumped in, and when I was more silent, I saw more communal participation. And sometimes people just need to sit with the situation.
They do
before they know what to do.
Yeah. It was actually one of my players told me that he's just like, Wally, you need to shut up. Like, what? he's just like, you keep talking so much. And I had to explain to him, because I used to be a DJ. So I would I would DJ weddings. And the last thing that I wanted to DJ is any second of silence. That's either got to be filled with music, or I got to be on the microphone saying something. And so, so it was really hard. But to this day, I appreciate that player for pointing that out to me, because I was just like, and then since I've done that, it's amazing, because if you do get that where the players take over, then they start talking and start going through ideas. And then those ideas, I start to soak those up, like, oh, that's good, and then write it down and stuff. So.
Yeah, I've never been a DJ, but I've done a lot of podcasting, and very similar thing. You can't have dead air in a podcast.
No.
Yeah, you have to fill those silences.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, here we go again. This time, another 3. What is this, like the third 3 I've rolled? And you're 13.
I'll take a 5. The +8 really isn't even coming into effect.
You're just killing it today, Wally.
Yeah.
What is your take on incorporating homebrew or house rule elements into your games, and how do you address that in your videos?
I mean, to each their own on a table. If you want to include something that's homebrew or something like that, if you're the DM or the GM, I would probably make sure that those are presented up front. Tell your players either when you first start a campaign or before a session, be like, hey, this is something that I want to introduce, because not everybody might be fond of the idea. It's also along the same lines of like optional rules, like flanking. So that's like one of the things that I say right away, be like, by the way, in my game, I don't use flanking. Or, and by the way, in my game, when you roll a natural 20, that's a critical success no matter what. So, just making sure that you're in front and everybody knows what those rules are, I think you'll be just fine.
Yeah, especially, I think that's a great idea to discuss homebrew up top in a session 0, or at the beginning of a session if it's something new you're planning to introduce, because when the rules vary from table to table, it can definitely get awkward. I'm playing a paladin in one campaign right now, and we just met this past Sunday, and we were going up against there was a barbarian in among the enemies, and I had this clever idea that I was going to cast Calm Emotions on the barbarian. And because I was certain that Calm Emotions canceled Rage.
It doesn't?
But it doesn't. And so I was looking through the spell, and I'm reading through the spell, and the Dungeon Master's also reading through the spell, and I'm like, I could have sworn it canceled Rage. And he said, yeah, it doesn't say that. And then I figured out just yesterday, that's in Baldur's Gate 3, it does.
Oh.
So he didn't let me have it. He went with the rules as written, but I was like, I was sure it was there.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe I'd seen it on Critical Role or some other game I'd played in. But yeah, it was a Baldur's Gate 3 rule.
Wow. Yeah, I would have guessed that. I would have thought that, I rage. Yeah. And I guess it makes sense, but yeah, no idea. I learned something today.
Yeah. All right, let's go again. I'm feeling good about this one.
Okay.
And that is, well, it's an 11.
Oh.
And your 27 handily beats my 11.
Yeah, I have expertise in all of my dice rolls today. That's just it.
I guess so. Are there any particular TTRPG related topics or trends you're excited to explore in the future?
I don't really think so. I've been on YouTube for like 8 years, and I'm primarily focused on puzzles and traps. I'll take that back, because I have done character builds, And I have been waiting to do more character builds until the new 2024 5e comes out. So when 5e 24 or 5.5 or whatever it is, I think it's just D&D 2024. I don't know. But yeah, so I guess I am looking forward to getting my hands on the Player's Handbook, and I do plan on doing some character builds for that, because I always enjoy creating characters. For those that are familiar with like Magic the Gathering, creating characters for me is very similar to building a deck in Magic the Gathering. I could sit there and build a character and never play it, and just and still get enjoyment out of it, just seeing how things fit together and different things that you could kind of do with that. And I think with 2024 for 5th edition, everything that I know is going to be thrown out the window, because just the tweaks and the changes they've made, not only to the subclasses, but to the classes alone, to themselves, plus the spells, plus the feats, plus the species. All of those changes are going to be like you're getting new decks of cards. It's just going to be, I think everything's just going to be different. So yeah, I guess I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I feel for Colby at D4 Deep Dive, because his whole channel is builds, but then maybe also he now has a chance to redo every single video he's made for the last few years to update them all. So maybe this is actually great for him, because he has endless content ideas.
Yeah, and I did see Colby put a poll out there asking if it should just be 2024 stuff or mix in 2014 stuff. So I'm very excited to see where he goes with his builds. And Treant Monk is another one that does really cool character builds and stuff. So I'm looking forward to seeing what those guys do with the new stuff. It's gonna be interesting. And I know a lot of people have their opinions one way or the other about 5th edition, but I think it's gonna be really cool to see what comes out of it.
Indeed, I agree. All right, I think we got time for one more here.
Okay.
So here comes my nat 20. Here it comes.
Let's see it.
Nope, that's a 4.
You know, if you want, I'll even choose to fail the roll. No, I won't on the roll. Natural 1.
The dice told their own story, didn't they?
They did. That's 2 natural 1s. I don't know if anybody's ever beat that on this, but there you go.
I don't think so. All
right, what do you got for me?
Okay. Do you fudge dice rolls? No, really, you can.
I've been trying to fudge dice rolls for the last 20 minutes, and nothing has happened, and it's been terrible. You know, I always feel I've been asked this before, and I always felt it's like a gotcha question, but I like how you put, just own it. And so, but I don't think there's a yes or no answer. I think it's for me personally, anyway. I have. I did not do it often, and it was always in favor of the players if I did. And one of the main reasons that I would fudge dice rolls is because I screwed up the encounter. I made something way stronger than it should have been, or I'm using a book and things are a lot stronger than it should have been. So the only time that I would fudge a dice roll would be because I don't want the players to, have their character go down because I screwed up and put, too much of something in there. With that being said, and I don't know if this is included in fudging dice, one of the things I do like to do is occasionally in a battle, a character can get like this critical hit and it just come through with this massive damage, or give this big drawn out explanation of what they do, and they do all of this damage. And let's say in your Mind Flayer, your Mind Flayer monster there would drop down to 2 hit points. I fudged that immediately. That was such a cool attack. I don't want to take that kind of oh, you did so good. That was so awesome. They still have 1 hit point left. Sorry, I wiped those last 2 hit points off. Yeah, you got them. Tell me what happens, So in those instances, I'll fudge a little bit, take a few hit points off here and there if it, other than that, the magic user comes up and I stab with the dagger. All right, you did it. Yay.
Yeah, I think Matt Colville once said something that I thought was that goes along the lines of what you're saying, where he said, encounter design doesn't stop when you roll initiative.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I haven't watched that, but yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because I've done that before too. I've made encounters that were too hard. And there shouldn't be a TPK because I messed up and threw an encounter at the party that they weren't ready for. Because the players don't know.
Yeah,
The players don't know how hard the encounter is going to be.
it's true.
Sometimes they do, but sometimes they do, and then they do the stupid thing anyway, and then
Yeah.
it's fine if they die then.
Yeah, sometimes I go through that secret door and surprise that mind flare and block off their escape route, and then they end up dying.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, we have run out of time, Wally. I want to thank you for this. This has been absolutely great. I loved having you on the show. Why don't you tell the people where they can find you on the internet?
Sure, absolutely. WallyDM, I have a YouTube channel that is named WallyDM, so you can find me there. That's where I spend most of my time. And of course, if you want to check out my puzzles and my puzzle and trap videos, they're there. And I also have a book on drive-through RPG called The Journal of Puzzle Encounters and The Quintessential Guide to Monster Encounters. You can find both of those on drive-through RPG.
Nice. And I will drop links to those down
awesome.
below.
Thank you.
For you. And I think that's it. So thank you for watching, and
for having me.
we'll see you next time.